King, who the British Formula 3 champion of last year, who went well in qualifying at Silverstone with 6th, but only 10th here. And we had an interesting chat earlier on, didn't we, with the team owner, Trevor Carling, who was saying that qualifying was late yesterday for Formula 3. It was after DTM rollout, and the DTM cars laid down so much rubber on the track that if you got out there early and got a quick lap in, there was a really small window. But if you missed that window at the start of the session, that grip from the rubber laid down by the DTM cars quickly evaporated.
Yes. Next we see Jake Dennis, who's wearing the Racing Steps Foundation's colours we saw there as the grid girls make their way. There's Mitch Gilbert from Fortec Motorsports, and see what Mitch Gilbert can do here at Hockenheim today as we're running through the grid. Next up will be Felix Sorales, another one that we saw in the F3 Championship last year, Chris.
Yeah, Felix went well in the races. He was hindered in the first race at Silverstone because he had a qualifying issue, in the second and third races rather, because of qualifying issues. He never got a real lap in. He had to go off onto the gravel to avoid somebody coming out of the pits and ruined his tyres for one of the sessions, but he did go well in the races.
Now, we had an interesting conversation with this guy just a few moments ago, Chris.
Yeah, Antonio Fuoco, the Italian, who was the winner of the third race at Silverstone. He's 18th on the grid. And the reason is not because of issues with the car. The car's going well, he said, but he just couldn't get a clear lap in qualifying. Was complaining that in one of the laps he got blocked by his teammate, Esteban Ocon. In another lap there were yellow flags there. And he just never was able to get a lap in. So from 18th on the grid, he's basically written this race off, he was saying, because you can't take too many risks in race one day because it's a triple header. There's 2 races tomorrow, but they've got another qualifying session, which is only 2 hours after the end of this race. And by the time they get the cars back, and then obviously they've got to leave a good 25 minutes before the start of the race to get assembled. They've really only got an hour back in the pits to sort the car out. So if you damage it, you're out for qualifying.
It's not much of a window, is it?
No.
And, yeah, you were absolutely right in what you're saying, that he was, as far as he was concerned, he was just considering this race almost a write-off before it starts, and all the focus is going to be on the next qualifying session, isn't it? Roy Nassani up next. Yeah,
the Israeli driver who gave us great value for money at Silverstone. He was involved in a number of entertaining battles. He got his elbows out. Not an easy man to pass, Roy Nassani, so we'll see what he can do here. He's back in 21st position on the grid. Polar opposite to his teammate Lucas Au. You can see there on the right of the picture who's the driver on pole position. Lucas's best grid at Silverstone was just 10th, so this is a big leap forward for him. And there's Sandro Zella, who missed the first round. Then he had one car, Joe Zella Racing, and Tatiana Calderani came into the team. She was due to race with Signature. The cars were there for the French squad, but she switched teams, and so Sandro gave his seat up. But they have got 2 cars here now. Incidentally, his teammate, Tatiana Calderani, the South American driver, has been put to the back of the grid because she used a different engine here than she did at Silverstone. And the rule is this year, Dave, if you change engines, you get a 10-place grid penalty, not just for the next race, but for 3 races.
3.
So it's going to be a 35-minute race. Once again, 3 races this weekend. There are 10 events. We've been to Silverstone. We're at Hockenheim. Next off, they'll be at Pau in France. And 30 races in the championship. So a long, long way to go. And as Jordan King was saying to me at Silverstone, you're not going to win it in the first couple of rounds, but you can certainly make life hard for yourself. But having got one out of the way now, you can rest assured, Dave, they'll all be a bit more interested in going for the wins than maybe they were at Silverstone when perhaps 1 or 2 were just betting themselves in.
Yeah, so off we go then. All cars away on the formation lap around the Hockenheim circuit here, and you're very welcome for this, the second round in the FIA F3 Championship for 2014. It's race 4 that is about to get underway here. So
on the front row of the grid, Lucas Auer and Antonio Giovinazzi. On row 2, starting 3rd and 4th, Ed Jones and Max Verstappen. On row 3, Esteban Ocon, who is the championship leader coming into this weekend. 58 points he gathered from the 3 races at Silverstone. Tom Blomqvist is also on the 3rd row of the grid, starts 6th. On the 4th row, Nicholas Latifi in the number 1 car. He got his first podium in the category at Silverstone last time out. Felix Rosenqvist is on the outside of the 4th row of the grid. On the 5th row of the grid, John Bryant Meissner and Jordan King. On the 6th row, Jake Dennis with the best qualifying performance for him so far in his first season of racing, and Mitchell Gilbert also on the outside of that row. There you can see confirmation of the top 10 qualifying times and just how close it was, 4/10 covering the top 10. And then on the 7th row of the grid, we've got Felix Sorales for the Team Westec driver. Jules Simkowiak having his best qualifying session of the season so far. Dennis van der Laar, the Dutch driver, and Richard Goddard, the Australian, on row 8. Row 9, watch for him, maybe later on in the weekend, maybe not in this one. Antonio Fuoco, race winner at Silverstone. Ricardo Agostini. Then on row 10, Alexander Toril, Spanish driver. Roy Nassani, the Israeli. On row 11, Gustavo Menezes and Sean Galal. And then on row 12, Felipe Guimarães and Michele Beretta, who was warned for exceeding track limits yesterday in free practice. Hector Hurst, who had a big crash but was okay at Silverstone, is on the 13th row of the grid with Sandro Zella. And as I said, Tatiana Calderon, who was near the back of the grid anyway. She qualified just a few from the back of the grid anyway in 17th, but she has, well, actually that was a better qualifying than she managed at Silverstone, so she's been put from 17th back to 10 places, which is last on the grid, 27th on the grid. There you can see the circuit map here of Hockenheim, and the track does lend itself, particularly the first half of the lap, Dave, to overtaking and slipstreaming opportunities, so it could be a lively race, this. Yeah,
very much so. We've seen some daring and bold moves in the past at the hairpin in particular, so looking forward to seeing that. The cars from their formation lap done and dusted, ready to line back up onto the grid, and we're going to be away with race 4 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship for 2014. Now, such a big grid of cars. It's a long time that Auer has to sit there on pole position before the rest of the cars are into their grid order, and we get the green flag from the marshal at the back. So the anticipation beginning to build already for him, and he and Giovinazzi have got to sit there for what must seem like an eternity to them. It's a good 30 seconds, isn't it? Guimarães just coming through, Roy Nizani, so there's still 2 or 3 more to make their way onto the grid spot. So there is the pole position man, the Austrian, one-time race winner last year, but very consistently on the podium. Had 9 other podium finishes. Lucas Auer. Can he win this one from pole position? The red lights come on. The engine notes rise. The tension builds. And the 4th round of the championship gets underway. Good start for Lucas Auer. Terrible start for Giovinazzi. So Ed Jones, I reckon, is almost certainly going to get through to 2nd place here. Yes, he is. Giovinazzi coming under attack now from Esteban Ocon, who's made a terrific start as well from 5th on the grid. It looks like the championship leader is going to get himself up to 3rd. 1 or 2 running wide as they go through the Nordkirche for the first time. A lock up for Lucas Auer, but he's got a couple of lengths advantage there. Giovinazzi has managed to fend off Ocon for 3rd place there, so I thought Esteban Ocon surely was going to come through, but he has gained a place because he's got ahead of Max Verstappen, who's lost a couple of places. Max Verstappen down into 6th position by the looks of things. Further back down the order, they try and jostle and sort themselves out, but now look at Ocon. He's having to go around the outside here for 3rd place. He's going to try, it's going to fail. There's contact further back as well, and Max Verstappen getting caught up in that, and that was all because they were switching around, trying to avoid one another, and Latifi, who got collared, I think it was Latifi, was sort of switching around the track. Verstappen had nowhere to go. We'll have another look on the replay. Another car going very slowly there. I hope that's not Tom Blomqvist, is it? One of the Jagonia IM Carling cars, it looks like, which is pulled to grief, and there's more contact further down the order as well. And Richard Goddard, I think, just about avoiding that one, getting through. I think he's picked up a few places at the end of the first half of the lap. So 1 or 2 coming to grief here. Very lively start to the race already. Looking at the inside there is Tom Blomqvist. He's still running, so Blomqvist is trying desperately to get past there, and he actually does it. He manages to get past that Sorales car. But you're absolutely right. What a
safety car's going out.
What a dramatic start to the race this has been.
Yeah, not without its contact, was it, that move from Tom Blomqvist? There was wheel-on-wheel contact, so 2 or 3 incidents there around the lap. Auer's leading, Jones is 2nd, Ocon 3rd. Giovinazzi's tumbled down the order. It was Giovinazzi then. So we just caught from the high camera shot, one of the Jagonia IM Carling cars. Yeah, there's Latifi. I'd like to see that one again. So bad news for Latifi. As I said, he celebrated his first podium in the category with the 2nd place finish in race 2 at Silverstone. He was in the top 6 in all the races. And Giovinazzi, he got an awkward start, but then he sort of got his elbows out, and having dropped to 3rd place, he was having a real scrap with Ocon. So it'd be quite interesting to see what happened there and why he came to grief halfway around the first lap. So frustration for Giovinazzi, who, as I said, qualified much better here than he did at Silverstone. Alexander Tyrrell, a bit like the first race at Silverstone, he was in the wars there, but at least the car's still going, so he's a pit visitor. And also coming into the pits is Gustavo Meneses. I think he was the other one who was tangled up in that third incident.
Yeah. Which
eventually, I think all the incidents piled together, Dave. They thought, right, we better bring the safety car out here. There's a bit too much carnage going on.
So Meneses then having a new nose put on the front of that car. We could see it displaced as he came into the pit lane. So safety car is taking the cars around the circuit. Then we didn't really get a completed lap, did we? Without lots of contact, as you say, all the way through the order. And, well, the big loser, you have to say, it's got to be Giovinazzi, hasn't it? Because you're right, he bogged down, he got an horrific start.
Well, here's a replay of the start. Look at that, Giovinazzi there, the yellow car from second on the grid, bogged off the line, so immediately lost second place to Ed Jones, who made very good starts at Silverstone as well. Ocon got him there, look, he got his nose in front, but ran wide out through the first corner, and then they were wheel to wheel after that. Here's another replay of the start. Max Verstappen also, I think he got held up, didn't he, Max Verstappen? He actually got off the line pretty well, but Giovinazzi was in his way making a slow start, so that's why Max Verstappen ended up losing a couple of places and was then in the wrong place at the wrong time coming down into turn 2. So here's Giovinazzi in front of Ocon. There's Verstappen trying but failing to avoid Latifi. One or two others ran wide as well there.
Okay, so
race back underway already. Green flags. So we didn't quite see in the replays what happened to Giovinazzi either. That's quite a spread out restart as well. No dramas though for Lucas Auer. There's Ed Jones in second. Esteban Ocon in third position. Jordan King's come up to fourth place from 10th on the grid, so he weaved his way through the traffic. Then it's Rosenqvist in fifth place, on for his best result of the season so far. Blomqvist is sixth. Morales is seventh. And then we've got running in 8th place, Mitchell Gilbert, who's not yet finished in the points this season. Then it's Van der Laar, the Dutch driver, and Jake Dennis, there you can see, battling away in the final points-paying positions. Jake had got himself up into 9th. He's just dropped down to 10th by the looks of things. And nice move there up the inside of Sorales from Mitchell Gilbert. So the Australian, good underbraking, leaping, pouncing, taking his opportunities. That is the best overtaking opportunity on the lap, that's for sure, down into that hairpin.
Also can provide some of the most dramatic moments as well. So back in the early stages of the resumption of this race, then following the safety car from lap 1.
Jake Dennis having a go back there and getting back ahead of Van der Laar. So he's back up into 9th place here. Jake Dennis, another of the rookies coming in, having raced in Formula Renault in the Euro Cup and finished a very respectable 4th in that championship last year, but had a really frustrating weekend at Silverstone. His home circuit, his home country in a way, but as he said to us there, he hadn't actually raced Silverstone for a few years. That's Antonio Fuoco there.
He's really having a go, isn't he?
He said he wasn't necessarily going to do this and take any risky moves, but he's up to 14th and can now maybe spice some points. Well, there's Giovinazzi pulling off, but what preceded, I wonder if it was just a mechanical problem rather than
maybe so.
Contact. And then there was that contact with Meneses and Toril just after he pulled off. Sorales, was it Hector Hurst actually? Hector Hurst running wide to avoid. The guys back in the pit will try to keep on top of everything, but frustrated that they've lost one of their Carlin drivers already, with Giovinazzi having a very, very good chance, of course, of a podium, but it never worked out for him. So back we go, and fastest first sector in this lap for Ed Jones in second place. So that gap to the leader might start to come down now. Looks like Jake Dennis has well and truly sorted out Van der Laar now. He's beginning to pull away from him. So 9th place for Jake Dennis, seeking his first points in the championship. There at the back of the field, you can see Alex Toril has gone back out, having had a quick look at the car. It looks like it's all right, so the Spaniard is back out. And half a lap behind them, just going past the commentary box now, is the American driver Meneses, who was also in the pits after that incident, but he's a long, long way down the order. Here come the top 4 then. Jordan King looking pretty racy. There's a slight question mark over his car coming into this race. There's lots of frantic work going on to it, but seems to be fine. They've got it sorted by the looks of things. So there he is in 4th place. Jordan King, who comes into this weekend 6th in the championship, on the podium in the first race at Silverstone, looking for his 2nd podium of the season. Over the start-finish line they go. Lucas Auer responding well in the 3rd sector of that lap, so the gap's 1.1 seconds now and he actually pulled a couple of tenths overall on the lap. Ocon there in third place, trying to hang on to them, and pretty similar lap time, but just a tenth slower.
Just keep an eye on Blomqvist there with Rosenqvist.
Yes, absolutely. Blomqvist in sixth place. Again, one of the more experienced returning campaigners. Got all these quick rookies coming in, like Fuoco, the Italian, like the French driver Ocon. But so you would have thought perhaps that the more experienced F3 drivers, more used to the cars, like Tom Blomqvist is coming back, would want to get the advantage early on in the season. Blomqvist having a go, coming out of the hairpin. Not quite going to do it there, is he? But he's desperately trying to get through here. Rosenqvist is going to have to go super defensive on the way out through the turn. He runs a little bit wide, but keeps it on the inside line for the left-hander, which comes up as they come back into the complex. So I think the Swede just about fend off the British driver. The son of Stig Blomqvist has to sit pretty and be patient. But he can see that Jordan King in fourth place is getting further and further up the road, and it feels like he's being held up here by Rosenqvist. But Rosenqvist, who won 3 races at Hockenheim last year, 3 out of the 4, one in the first run here, and then he won the races at the end of the season as well. Should go well around this circuit. Will be difficult to try and find a way past. So they're just coming into the sud curve and out at the end of the lap. I think it's the top 3 coming through. I think Lucas Auer looking more and more comfortable, isn't he, in the lead of the race? He has 1.6 seconds is now the gap. And this has become the main battle here. And Mitch Gilbert going well behind them, isn't he, in 7th place?
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. So Blomqvist was really having a go on the previous lap. Let's see if he keeps the wick turned up and whether he'll be as predatory during the course of this lap. Overtaking so very difficult, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Mitchell Gilbert will try in the next lap to get right into the tail of Tom Blomqvist. Looking for his best finish in the championship so far. He was in the series last year, but the Australian, was in the Euro Formula 3 series last year, finished in 23rd place, but has looked definitely more racy so far this year. Blomqvist better under braking, coming up to the tail of last year's runner-up Felix Rosenqvist there, but Rosenqvist just has enough of an advantage, enough of a cushion going through the first corner to not come under too much pressure at that hairpin. But again, it's in this middle sector where Tom Blomqvist was climbing all over the tail of him. Gilbert not really reeling them in 7th place. Soralis going well in 8th. And then Jake Dennis 9th, and completing the point scorers at the moment is Dennis van der Laar, who's already been in the points at Silverstone.
So Auer untroubled at the front at the moment, isn't he? And our focus and our attention is on this battle between Rosenqvist and Blomqvist. And here we can see a replay again.
Yes, that is Riccardo Agostini being pushed rather wide there by Jules Simkovic, the Dutch driver. Definite contact there. 3 didn't quite fit into 1 there, and trying to get out of the way of all of that was Sean Galal as well. Yep. And actually, he came off better off, didn't he? The Indonesian just snuck back through and went past them. Roy Nassani got past them as well. So it looked spectacular on the way into the corner, but it slowed them up massively on the way out. Some Koviak all over the curbs as well, and a bit frustrating after his the rookie's best qualifying stints. And as we join it back live after the replays, Blomqvist finds his way past Rosenqvist. So those two switch around, 5th and 6th. And now what's he going to do about this gap to Jordan King, which has pretty much doubled in the last couple of laps? Well, first of all, he's got to fend off Felix.
Rosenqvist is coming back around the parabolic, and then as they head up towards the hairpin, absolutely side by side between Blomqvist and Rosenqvist. That was brilliant to watch, wasn't it? We just cut back to that and saw him complete that move live. And at the moment, Blomqvist has made it stick. But by Jiminy, they are so close. This is brilliant racing.
Fantastic stuff. He's got the inside line. He knows he's got to make it stick on the way out of the corner. He runs slightly wide, but not too dramatic. You've got to be super careful this weekend not to cross those white lines which mark the edge of the track. It's okay to do it where there are curbs, but where there are not curbs, there have been lots of penalties. We heard 35 laps were taken away from drivers in free practice and qualifying yesterday for crossing the white line and trying to get the ideal racing line. That's yes, I saw that car coming in a few moments ago. It's Agostini who was involved in that contact, and the car too seriously damaged to continue by the looks of things.
Wow. So Auer then, whilst everything else is happening behind, has built up a cushion of 2.2 seconds, which is brilliant news for Auer. And Blomqvist now is beginning to pull away from Rosenqvist. You alluded to the fact that Rosenqvist could see them all getting away from him. He wanted to get past. He's done it probably later than he would like to have done, but now the chase is on for him, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. And further back, Jake Dennis has come up to 8th place. Soralis up to 9th, and Van der Laar 10th. So Soralis has lost a place to Jake Dennis, who is much more on it here now. The British driver, having just really suffered with qualifying a bit more than anything at Silverstone. He didn't really get the laps in, quite have the pace. And then in the third race as well, he never got past the first half of the lap. He got took out. I think it was in an incident with Spike Goddard up at Brooklands. Here's the move then. That was a mistake from Rosenquist, possibly, that started this. Dave had a lock up there, didn't he?
Yes, yes. So we saw the smoke coming off there, and for sure, you're absolutely right, Chris. That lock up just, although, and that was just very, very clean and tidy, wasn't it? In the end, that it must have been a very, very early lock up.
It's the slowest corner on the lap, that hairpin, but technically it's probably one of the most difficult corners because you want to go barreling in there. You brake too early, somebody's going to come up the inside of you, but if you brake just a couple of centimetres too late, you scrub your speed, you have to brake too hard, you kill your speed out of the corner, you run wide, and you lose the place anyway. So it's a really fine balancing act that these drivers have to try and measure up to. Right, here comes Roy Nazani, so here probably then comes some entertainment on the way as the Israeli now gets onto the tail of Calderon in the Joe Zeller racing car. Calderon's moved up a few places in this race, actually. I know 1 or 2 have dropped out, but Tatiana Calderon has come from last place up to 16th, which is more or less, well, where she qualified in the first place. She was 17th quickest in qualifying, which got Roy Nazani coming up soon. There in front of him first, though. He's got to try and get past Michele Beretta. So they're 19th and 20th respectively. Alex Toril is the next one behind them in 21st, but a couple of seconds back. And there you see Calderon, who's at the head of that group in the yellow Joe Zeller racing car, having had a good race so far. Probably not going to get any points, but certainly making good strides forward. But as we said, for 3 races now, she's going to have to start at the back of the grid, unless she qualifies particularly well. But she'll get these 10-place grid penalties for a change of engine. Poor old Gustavo Meneses, he's just trundling around on his own, about half a lap behind everybody, having visited the pits. So just a glorified test session for him now, just to get a bit more track time. Fuoco has made another place up since that restart, but he's still 13th, so he's still going to struggle to make some points here. His next target is going to be to try and move himself up into 12th place, but he's got a couple of seconds to try and bridge that gap now. His next target, John Bright-Meisner, the Swedish driver, who actually started in the top 10 but has lost a couple of places in this race.
When we spoke to him, that was his target, really, wasn't it? Just to get into the points, perhaps. That's what the best he felt that he could achieve from this almost written-off race for him. Yeah,
he said he wasn't going to take any risks. There you can see John Bright-Meisner, the Swedish driver, just going through, and let's compare the lap times to see if he can catch him. So Meisner just put in a lap time which is fairly good, 1 minute 34.0, but it was a 1:33.1, 9/10 quicker for Antonio Fuoco. So I think he's going to be with him possibly by the end of this lap, certainly the next lap after that, but he's still not going to be hunting down a points finish.
First 5 are lapping in 1:32s, aren't they? 1:32.463 from Auer.
And there you can see the Dutch driver there, Van der Laar, coming under attack from Spike Goddard. Richard Goddard is his Christian name, is the Australian. That's the battle for 10th place. So this is the battle for the final point scoring position. Dennis Van der Laar was involved in a couple of similar scraps like this at Silverstone, where he was either trying to get into the top 10 or trying to hang on to a top 10 finish. Goddard in the wars a bit. Goddard was the entertaining driver of the first race. I think he might have exceeded the track limits there slightly as he went very, very wide, completely over the curbs. But yes, he had got tangled up in the wars in the first race, in the first lap at Silverstone, then charged back through from the back of the field. He actually visited the pits. The safety car came out, bunched them all up, and then he picked up lots of positions, but sadly for him, no points. So he'll be desperate to get his name on the charts here. But that mistake, as you can see there, Dave, cost him 3 car lengths already, didn't it? Here we go. This is his earlier attempt. Well, not so much as his attempt, it's just putting the pressure on, really. Trying to get the wider run into the corner and then cut back on the inside and get on the gas. But Van der Laar put the car in exactly the right place there, didn't he?
Yeah.
So the Dutch driver hanging on to the position for the time being. There is the race leader, Lucas Auer. This very solid season last year. Only 19 years of age. A lot of the drivers in the field still in their teens from St. Johann in Austria. The KFZ Tyler 24 Muka Motorsport team powering him with the Mercedes engine. We've got Mercedes, Volkswagen and Neil Brown Engineering, the Yorkshire-based company, all supplying engines this season. MBE, Neil Brown Engineering, supplying the T-Sport, the 3 Bournemouth T-Sport engines this season. And maybe later in the season we'll get some Renaults, but Signature with the Renault engines not here this weekend. And looking commanding is Lucas Auer. He's got the experience to just be able to get his head down now, hasn't he? Ed Jones, just for a moment after the restart, I thought for a lap or two he might be able to do something about Lucas Auer. But he's now busier, Dave, trying to fend off this man, Esteban Ocon, who was so good at Silverstone with 3 podiums in his first 3 races. Not just in this car, but he'd never been to Silverstone before either.
No, it's remarkable, wasn't it?
So Ocon pushing on, trying his hardest here. But if he can stay there, it's going to be a 4th consecutive podium for him. And that's the way to win a 30-round championship, isn't it? Just keep being consistent. I know that Marciello last year won a bunch of races. But you've still got to be, I think, even more so at the start of the season, be consistent and get the points, and know that and accept that you're not going to win every race. A lot of it depends on qualifying, where these quite small windows in qualifying, where the tyres, the Hankook tyres, only really produce the top laps for about 3 or 4 laps. And as you know, as we said, if you get held up in traffic, you might be in dramas. Sort of Ruin Desani further back, just going past the commentary box window. He's almost onto the tail now of Hector Hurst in the Westech car in that battle for 17th place. So Ruin Desani ahead of Beretta, and Calderon has dropped back in that group now. She's dropped to the back of that group, so she's down to 20th place now, Tatiana Calderon. And then we've got Meneses about half a lap further back behind her. This is battle for 10th place, just going through the hairpin with John Bryant Meissner still trying to hang on to the position. The number 10 car. In fact, he's dropped back to 12th now. Goddard's got him. And instead, he's got Seralis onto his case, hasn't he? So Seralis in the mix there. It's got Lucas Auer leading the race still. Jones is second, 3.5 seconds back. Good first sector for Ed Jones. He hasn't quite given up on the ghost yet. The gap at a stretch was 4 seconds. He's back to 3.5 now, as the race leader goes across the start-finish line.
See what the gap is this time round, can't we? And see what...
4.3. Right, OK. Started well the lap, but Auer's just got... He's better at the end of the lap through the twisty bits, isn't he? I think he's got the car better set up, and that's where he's pulling his advantage. Ocon's 3rd, as we know. King is 4th. Blomqvist is 5th. Rosenqvist 6th still. And then Gilbert then in 7th. Rich Gilbert. Jake Dennis is 8th, looking for his first points of the season. Seralis in 9th. Van der Laar in 10th. Goddard 11th. And Bryant in 12th place. Antonio Fuoco still hasn't got past him and is in 13th position still. That's that battle we were trying to keep an eye on. Ocon just feigning up the inside there, having a look on the way into the hairpin, but he's not close enough. Just trying to distract the driver ahead there, I think. So he leads the championship coming into this weekend, with, as I said, with 58 points. 6 points clear of Antonio Fuoco, the Italian, who is not looking like he's going to pick up any points in this race. Blomqvist 3rd in the championship after the first 3 races on 45. Nicola Latifi 4th in the championship before the start of this race, but he's not going to pick up any points either. And then Verstappen got tangled up in that as well. Verstappen 5th in the championship. So this is really going to mix things up. And Jordan King, I think, is likely going to pick up a couple of places in the championship just by being in 4th place and again picking up points.
We mentioned earlier on that we saw Raffaele Marciello, last year's champion here, is sitting with the Prima Power team on the pit perch as we speak. Keeping an eye on progress down there. We're just over half distance through this first of 3 Formula 3 races across the weekend.
That's right, so 4.6 seconds, the gap continuing to grow from 1st to 2nd, but from 2nd to 3rd, very, very similar lap times last time through for Jones and Ocon. King is kind of on the same pace as well, but he can't quite close that gap as yet, but he's still pushing hard. Jordan King and Ed Jones, it's worth pointing out, having a coming together in the 3rd race at Silverstone, the 2 teammates. We never quite saw it on camera, but we saw one with a damaged rear wing and one with a damaged front wing.
Right.
And then, yes, it was confirmed later that there had been a bit of a coming together between them. Right, now replay. Speaking of damaged front wings, that's not looking good, is it? Yeah, for John Bryant Meissner, who was running just outside the top 10.
No, that looks like it's lower down that side, so it. But I mean, there's a number of those layers that you could see flapping around there, which interesting to see what that does and what effect that has. But it looked certainly lower that side, didn't it?
So he might well be able to bring it home. Jordan King had a damaged wing and managed to, he lost pace, but he managed to keep going and got in the points and still finished in 9th place in that third race at Silverstone. But the handling's not going to be ideal, let's put it that way. There is Jordan King. Looks like he's on a good lap to me here, and maybe starting to close the gap to Esteban Ocon. There was a second between them, exactly a second at the start of the lap. And yes, Jordan has just done one of the fastest second sector of anybody. So pushing a bit hard, getting a four-wheel drift coming out there. Ocon just darting around. A bit odd that, because he's not exactly on the tail of the man in second, Ed Jones, is he? So you can see him looking in his mirrors now as well. But Jones, I think, still got enough breathing space here. Jordan King with that good lap then, but maybe slightly spoilt at the end by being a bit too overzealous going through the final turn. But he is looking quicker, and he found a 10th on that lap. I think he might have found more had he not gone a bit too hot into the final turn through the sud curve. Pair of rails, this man, isn't he? Lucas Sauer.
Incredible.
Hasn't made any mistakes at all.
And now has a margin of some 5.2.
When you bear in mind, he was kind of average, 5th to 12th and an 8th at Silverstone. This is a big step up.
Nissani.
With a big step down. Nissani into the pits, and I can't see any obvious damage to the car. Tyres look like they're all inflated, so that might well be a mechanical drama that's going to put him out of the race. He goes past Agostini's already stricken car, and that doesn't look good, does it? It's steam rather than smoke, I think, so it might be a water issue. So he's pulled off, doesn't want the car to overheat. Of course, as we said, 2 hours after this, they've got to qualify, and that qualifying session will set the grid for both races tomorrow. Fastest time sets the grid for race 2, second fastest time for race 3.
So it's a crucial qualifying, isn't it? So he's probably done the right thing there, hasn't he, in terms of saving the car from further damage. Our leading then with a 5.4 second margin.
Good response from Jones, 132.6. He's pulled a 10th away from Ocon, and 2/10 quicker than his teammate Jordan King on that lap. So he sort of saw them coming, and he's just kept his head down. And Ed Jones driving very well here. And as I say, pretty solid weekend. 9th place in the championship overall, 7th and an 8th were his best results. He probably would have got good points in the third race as well had it not been for that coming together. In the end, he finished, he was classified down in 15th place. More power for these Formula 3 cars this year. A step up from 210 brake horsepower to 240. Better suspensions on the cars. Slightly grippier compound of tyre from Hankook this year as well. So we did see quite a big performance boost in terms of the lap times at Silverstone by a couple of seconds, really, when you looked at the times compared to last season. And for the first time, these cars are built to FIA specs and engines rather than necessarily, as we see a change there at Meissner losing a place. He's got that damaged front wing, hasn't he? So that's probably cost him out of the first corner, and then he's a sitting duck on the way down into the hairpin. And easily at the inside of him went Felipe Gomares, the Brazilian driver. That was a nice clean pass. And Meissner knew he couldn't fight it too hard, didn't he? Rosenqvist there, who's lost touch now with Tom Blomqvist, but still has to keep an eye on the Australian Mitch Gilbert behind him. Go right off the track, but Gilbert does exactly the same. Yep. So, again, pushing a bit too hard. But this is definitely a step forward for Rosenqvist and for the team as a whole, because, of course, their man's winning the race as well, Lucas Sauer. So the team looking for their first win of the season. Everybody's going wide there, aren't they?
Yeah, it was only Sorales, really, that held it together, wasn't it, that we see in slow-mo there from Team Westtech. So, and there we can see a car that has been retired, and Nissani jumping out of it there.
Yeah, already got the screwdrivers and spanners ready, haven't they? They're already on it. Get it ready for the next session, the qualifying session. So Roy Nissani out of the race. 8.5 minutes left in this 35-minute race. So we're getting into the final quarter of the race now. There's Ed Jones in second place then. 19 years of age, born in Dubai. British background, but he's lived in the UAE. He represents the United Arab Emirates. Formula 3 Open champion of Europe last year with Team Westtech, who the British-based team who have been so successful, 3 titles in the Open Championship, but they've now stepped up to the FIA European Formula 3 Championship, and they're running quite well with Felix Sorales so far this year. Ed Jones, arguably already, Dave, the most successful driver to come out of the United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
With everything that is achieved in with the Open Championship, with Formula Renault the year before that. And then he actually raced in Britain in the Intersteps Championship, his first foray into single-seater racing back in 2011. There's number 25 going through, Antonio Fuoco. Race winner at Silverstone, but looking like he's not going to get the points here. He has moved up to 12th because Meisner's been dropping back with his front wing issue. But Spike Goddard is still quite a bit up the road. And there's been a change because Ocon has gone through ahead of Ed Jones. So as we come back to them, having said all those nice things about Ed Jones, he's gone and lost the place to Esteban Ocon when really, Dave, he hadn't looked like he was under any pressure at the start of the lap. So what will come of what we'll find out about that? Wait and see. Oh, my mistake. Hang on. No, it was Jordan King, wasn't it, that we were following there. So it is still Jones in second. There's Meisner coming in. And he's given up now on this front wing. Well, he's not going to get any points. I think he was just trying to hang on to see if he could possibly, but what's the point of running round? I think they'll go out just to check the car's okay. They'll change the front wing. So, my apologies, Jones still there in second. It was King we were looking at. Ocon still third. 0.8 of a second. Yes, the gap between second and third. Now it's getting in the way of this front wing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that really has become a problem now, hasn't it? It's completely detached there. You can see from the bottom of the nose there that... he had to come in, didn't he? Yeah,
well, if it drops off or starts to become too loose, they'll black flag him. Or worse still, bits of debris might result in punctures. So he's done the right thing. He might even puncture his own tyre. So the Swedish driver in. He wasn't going to pick up the points anyway. Auer, Jones, Ocon, King and Blomqvist the top five. Rosenqvist 6th, Gilbert 7th, Dennis is 8th, Sorrell 9th. Van der Laar holding on to the final points paying position at the moment. But Goddard's only 7/10 of a second behind him, then 3.5 seconds behind them in 12th place, Antonio Fuoco, the Italian superstar, who might well be still one to watch this weekend because he was happy with the car, just as I said, not getting the lap in qualifying. And he's got this qualifying session to come, which he's really, I think, concentrating on now.
Yes, that's certainly what he indicated, wasn't it? As we see our race leader, Auer, who has not put a foot wrong, has he? He's maintained a very, very healthy, or built and developed a very, very healthy gap back to Jones in P2. 6 seconds the margin now. Very, very comfortable. And every lap that we've seen on camera from Auer has been a consistent good lap. And you said earlier, Chris, that the key to this championship, such a long championship, such a busy championship, it is consistency. And this guy is really delivering it today.
Yeah, that 132.7, 132.7, 132.5. So he's still pushing hard. Best lap of the race of 132.1. But given how late we are into the race, it's still pretty impressive. Into the pits. Menezes, I think, yes. It's just come into the pits, not on your cameras, but it's in front of the commentary box coming into the pit lane, but he was already way down the order anyway. So there is Ed Jones. He's just done the fastest first sector of anybody. Very quick at the start of the lap. I think he knows he has to be because Esteban Ocon's going with him. They've suddenly dropped Jordan King, haven't they? Jordan King has had a slow lap last time round, a 133.5. He lost 3/4 of a second there. Menezes gets out of the car. Jules Simkowiak's out of the race. There he is with the half white, half grey race suit. The Dutch driver shakes his head. Motocross background for Jules Simkowiak rather than necessarily a strictly karting background. And we're saying to him at Silverstone, he's got the pace, but it just takes him at the moment too long to get to the pace. And by the time he does that, free practice and qualifying's over. So I think potential there, but it's a big steep learning curve. I suppose the one thing you would say, Dave, was for the rookies, maybe it's a good season to come in though, because we have had all these changes to the cars.
Yes.
And so the regular drivers from last year, like Tom Blomqvist, Felix Rosenqvist, maybe not having all the information that they gained last year, maybe not quite so helpful as it would have been had the cars remained the same.
No, and I think we can see that, can't we? And I think you're absolutely right. So we're into the final 3 laps of this Formula 3 race here at Hockenheim, race 1 of 3 across this weekend, being led by Lucas Auer then with a 6.2 second margin over Ed Jones in P2. Then it's Ocon in P3 with Jordan King P4 and Tom Blomqvist, one of last year's campaigners, P5.
Yeah, Rosenqvist in 6th place, but with a queue now forming up behind him as we go to the final stages of this race. Gilbert in 7th, who has raced in Germany before in the ATS F3 Cup a couple of years ago. Then Jake Dennis, not too far behind them in 8th place. Sorrell looking like he's going to pick up some points in 9th and 10th place. Still Van der Laar, so only one Australian in the points at the moment. Antonio Fuoco still in 10th. So there 12th rather. He still goes fan club here. loads of support at Silverstone, and he's got loads of support here. He's a very popular man, and he's got his supporters who seem to make the biggest supporters flags ever.
I know. And what was surprising him when we talked to him earlier is he wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, that's right. He had a banner at the grandstands at Silverstone, a flag which covered about 40 seats, I think. Good job there wasn't anybody in the way. His name means fire. Fuoco is Italian for fire, and the banner in Italian said we need more fire in Formula One. So they've obviously got their eyes on their man moving forward. Second in the championship after his first weekend. As you say, he was slightly overshadowed. I mean, a rookie second in the championship, pretty astounding, but he was overshadowed by Ocon, who was also a rookie, and got slightly better weekend than him with the 3 podiums and 6 more points. So we'll see what he can do in the second qualifying session later on, and then we'll see him again with the 2 races tomorrow, one tomorrow morning and one late tomorrow afternoon. Ed Jones going very well here. Team boss Trevor Carlin was saying he was pretty pleased with him at Silverstone. He went well, but he's just moved it on another notch here. So rather than the car and any handling issues, he just felt that Ed had just felt a bit more comfortable in the car this weekend, and it was coming from the driver rather than the team, this extra speed. Still have to work hard though, because Ocon does not give up, and he's still pushing hard. Jordan King still fading away from them. His lap times are a bit better now, Jordan King. I think he had a scruffy lap somewhere, which just lost in that momentum, and he can't get back onto the tail of the group now in 4th place. But again, it's going to be more good points, as I say, for Jordan. 3rd, 6th, 9th and 4th would be his results so far, so it's pretty steady with the British F3 champion of last year. There is Lucas Auer, and we saw some drives like this from Ocon as going past us very slowly. It was Dennis van der Laar, very, very slowly. So van der Laar, yes, and he's dropped to 14th place on that lap. He's lost 13 or 14 seconds. So van der Laar out of the points now, and it means that Richard Goddard, the Australian, moves up into 10th place. He's been trying to do that the whole race, more or less, but Goddard is up into the top 10. The Neil Brown Engineering powered driver with the 3-bomb T-Sport kart, Russell Ecott's team, the British team, and Spike into the top 10 after a roller coaster of a weekend at Silverstone. Well, there's only 10 seconds left on the clock. I don't think he's going to get back before the flag comes out, is he? So this will be the final run through the final turn for Lucas Auer, who has looked very controlled, very calm, and a very deserving winner of the 4th round of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. The Austrian takes his first win since last season, and they're happy with their man, aren't they? Peter Bucher, they're happy with the Bucher Motorsport. First victory of the season after a really tough weekend for the team at Silverstone. They've come back really strongly here. As I said, they've got good form here at the circuit. There's Jake Dennis, happy, crossing the line because he's going to pick up another place there as Ocon going slowly to the right of the picture, crawling through the last corner. So the championship leader, slow, very slow. He crossed the line, but down in 9th place. So Auer wins, Jones is 2nd, Jordan King is promoted to 3rd position, Blomqvist 4th, Rosenqvist 5th, and then Gilbert 6th. That's not a bad way to get your points up and running, is it? 6th place. And Jake Dennis, likewise, his first points in 7th. Seralis 8th, Ocon 9th. He's weaving the car around almost as if it had run out of fuel there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So we didn't expect that at all. So whether it be a replay, whether it was something more untoward, or whether it is just a mechanical issue, we'll wait and see. But Ocon dropping out of the podium position there, down to 9th place, almost within sight of the checkered flag. Goddard picks up 10th. Fuoco almost did get the points in the end. He was 11th, with van der Laar dropping out late on as well. And then Felipe Gomares, the Brazilian, 12th. Sean Gallar with his best result so far this season in 13th, the Indonesian. There's Dennis van der Laar's car. Cameraman's done well to find him, being pushed back to the paddock. So he dropped out of the points on that very final lap as well, with an unrelated incident. So Fuoco was 11th, and Gomares was the next driver to come through.
Confirmation of the result then. Lucas Auer takes the win from Ed Jones and Jordan King. Then it's Tom Blomqvist, Felix Rosenqvist, P5, Mitch Gilbert 6, Jake Dennis 7, Felix Seralis 8, Esteban Ocon 9th, and Spike Goddard 10th place.
Yep, and not just his first points of this year, his first points ever in the at the European stage for the Australian. So we're absolutely delighted with that. He was the national class victor in the British Formula 3 Championship a couple of years ago. This is a much bigger, much more competitive stage than the class for the slightly older Formula 3 cars in the UK there. Confirmation that Fuoco almost got into the points for Prema Power Team, but not quite. Would have been a bonus, I think, had he managed to pick up a point or two. There you go again for Max Verstappen, who's in the wars a little bit there. Not entirely convinced that was all his own doing that, Max Verstappen. He went into Latifi, but I don't think he expected Latifi's car to be where it was going into that hairpin, as they all try to weave and duck and avoid one another. Typical first lap incident, really, wasn't it?
Yes, it wasn't without its drama, the opening lap of that race, as we see our race winner here, Lucas Auer, then, who has been a model of consistency over the race.
Well, Esteban Ocon's made it back to the pit, so maybe it wasn't fuel.
But it was really dramatic weaving, wasn't it?
Very, very frustrating. There's Jake Dennis in the background, the British driver, this first points and a bonus. We're getting 7th at the end. Right, replay. He was getting very close. No, that's where Jordan King went past him, wasn't it? So he'd already got the problem by the time we joined this. And, the car has just lost power. Not power completely, but it's lost speed somehow. And we will endeavour later on to find out what that was and report back to you when we give you the coverage of races 2 and 3 tomorrow. So very frustrating for the championship leader. So the top 2 in the championship coming into this weekend, all with dramas. Blomqvist, the best of the front runners, with the 4th place finish there. But it's really mixed things up, having Auer, Jones and King as the 3 on the podium. It's really going to bunch the championship point standings up, isn't it? And Lucas Auer, for example, 7th in the standings coming into the weekend. It's his first podium of the year, and he's gone straight up onto the top step. There is Jordan King, the white race suit there, just taking his earplugs out.
I pushed too hard.
It's lovely to hear that, isn't it?
Yeah. There's Trevor Carlin to the right there, the team founder. Such a successful team, multiple titles in British F3.
Peter Mucker there, and it's lovely to be able to hear these conversations just on occasions, and we get to learn some things, don't we? But
so Jordan King saying he pushed a bit too hard. That's Lucas Auer, the race winner. Looks pretty calm and relaxed about it all, doesn't he? But when you get pole position, when you get the opportunity... We were saying earlier, Dave, about the fact that Trevor Carlin had said there was this very short window early on in qualifying where the rubber had been laid down by the DTM cars. But he actually, at the end of that, said, a few drivers got higher at the grid maybe than they could have because they went well at the start. But Lucas Auer wasn't one of them. He actually did his fastest lap at the end of the session. So Trevor will say he did really well to get pole position, given all of that. There is the thumbs up for the Austrian, taking his first win of the season, his first win since that victory last year. 4th place in the championship last year, but he's another one. He's on the list of 7 or 8 drivers who all look like they could win races and go for the championship this year. Dave gives his car a little tap there, and as I say, the team had a difficult weekend with handling, but Lucas still bagged decent points. It has to be said. He was the one who seemed to cope best with the car at Silverstone, all in all.
So there's the celebrations there, and the KF Tyler 24 Mucker Motorsport team there with Peter Mucker. And
big team effort. We all focus on the driver, but these guys are relentlessly working on the cars before, in between, after every session to get those drivers in as best a position as they possibly can.
I mean, whenever you're around the paddock, they are always engineering those cars, aren't they? There's always something going on. You're absolutely right. So we're standing by. Podium will be on its way in just a few moments as we see the drivers make their way up to the...
There's Ed Jones, the black race suit. Jordan King to the right. Jake Dennis has made his way onto the podium because there's also a separate podium for the top 3 rookies in the race. And there'll also be a prize for the top rookie at the end of the season this year as well.
Is the championship?
Esteban Ocon leads, but by a reduced margin now. They've halved the gap from 6 to 3 points, and Tom Blomqvist is the one that's moved up to 2nd place in the standings now. From 3rd place, getting ahead of Fuoco, who didn't score any points there, stays 3rd, or moves down to 3rd on 52. Jordan King does move up a couple of places on 40 points now to 4th place. Lucas Auer with the win moves up to 5th. Latifi didn't score points, he's 6th. Verstappen didn't score points, so he's down to 7th. Ed Jones is tied on points with the Dutch driver now in 8th place there. Good to see that point, that precious point for Spike, for Richard Goddard. I'll save you that. He's looked like he's had the pace all season long, actually, to be in the points, but as I said, he was in the wars a little bit earlier on. There's Gerhard Berger, who's going to be presenting the some of the trophies in this presentation here. So Auer, Jones and King, the top 3. I think I'm right in saying that's the first podium of the year where we haven't had a rookie in the top 3 full stop per se, because they all were up there at Silverstone pushing these slightly more experienced drivers very hard indeed. So Dennis is going to be the best of the rookies, isn't he, in 7th place. Really much improved performance from him. Ocon will be next. He was in 9th place. Focko didn't get in the points, was in 11th position. So there is the man quite casually making his way onto the top step of the podium, the race winner, Lucas Auer. There is Ed Jones receiving applause for 2nd place. Muka Motorsport, and then 2 Carlin boys with Jordan King completing the podium. We'll have the trophy presentations in just a moment. So there they are, the top 3 here, the 4th race of the season. The first of 3 races this weekend here at Hockenheim. And that's 4 different winners in 4 races now, Dave.
Yeah, and good to see. He does look calm, cool, you know, extraordinary. National anthem.
So there, the national anthem of our winning driver, Lucas Auer, who'll be the first driver to be presented with a trophy now. And we're going to have ex-Formula 1 racer and now FIA single-seat commission president, Gerhard Berger. In what's been, of course, I imagine, quite an emotional week for Gerhard, 20 years after the death of his very good friend, Ayrton Senna. Gerhard Berger, of course, himself, Austrian, so it couldn't be better, really, could it, for him? There's the winning trophy then presented to him, and Gerhard takes the time as well to shake the hands of Ed Jones and Jordan King in 2nd and 3rd. Peter Muka there, the team boss of the grey jacket. Manfred Sandbichler from Hankook Tyres, the motorsport director of Europe, is now presenting the trophy to our winning team. Kev Tyler, 24 Muka Motorsport team, received their first team trophy of the year. And to present the 2nd place trophy, Royalty. Oh, it was going to be Royalty. It was going to be Prince Leopold of Bavaria. But it's Gerhard Berger who's made his way to present Ed Jones with that 2nd place trophy. Ed's best finish of the season so far. His first podium of the year, of course, as well. And then the 3rd place trophy. Now, Manfred Sandbichler from Hankook presents to Jordan King. Been a very, very solid start to the year for Jordan. So they'll now make their way up onto the top step of the podium. Jordan King's going to want to taste this for real pretty soon. He's going to be content to be banging in the points, but he's going to know that you are going to have to win some races at some point to be a real threat in this championship. So everybody else runs. Champagne comes out. Of course, I can't drink it because they've got to qualify again in a couple of hours' time. And hopefully, Dave, they've all got spare race suits as well.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to go out in a sticky, it's horrible stuff champagne unless you're drinking it.
So Gerhard Berger then making presentations there, and single-seat commission, as you say, and much of the success now and the rejuvenation of the F3 European Championship has got to be down to that man, hasn't it? 27 cars on the grid in the championship. I would argue the best calibre of drivers throughout the field that we've had. It's Christoph Faber there, the championship manager helping reassemble the podium. Repair the podium.
a very sticky podium, because we're going to have the rookie podium as well here, of course. But yes, Gerhard Berger will be delighted with the quality of this field and the number of cars and the number of really well-respected teams that we've got in the championship now as well.
So see some more slow-mo shots here, and Lucas Auer then, who model of consistency throughout that race after the early dramas that came at the beginning. And okay, rookie podium now. Chris?
Jake Dennis, first points of the year, best rookie. This is what we expected after some very promising pre-season tests from the British driver who came from karting. And he's smiling because that's definitely not the British national anthem. They're playing the French national anthem. Possibly confused by the colour scheme of his Racing Steps Foundation.
Going to check the flag out now, isn't he?
Poor old, well, there's one to write home about. You're doing Formula One in a few years' time, Jake. You remember the first time you got on the podium in F3 at Hockenheim, they played the wrong national anthem. They were probably queued up, to be fair, because it looked until 99.9% of the way through the race like Esteban Ocon was going to win the rookie class. So there you go, change of nationality for Jake Dennis. Esteban Ocon ended up third, of course, in the rookie division and lower down the points because the car failed him right at the end of the race. And Foucault there, you can see to the left, didn't get into points, but he was the third best rookie. So there's Gerhard Berger to present the trophy. Doesn't matter about the anthem, Dave. What matters is he's got the trophy there. And yeah, this is just reward for after a tough start to the season at Silverstone. Jake Dennis will be very pleased. Mom and Dad, no doubt, watching at home. His dad, Steve, is a pretty handy kart racer in 250cc superkarts. Bit of a madman as well, Steve Dennis. So very proud of the way his son's moved up since he started when he was, 8 years of age in cadet karts, 60cc cadet karts. He's done quite well for himself, hasn't he? Gerhard's presenting all the trophies. Antonio Foucault's had the second place trophy. I think Gerhard's probably trying to, that's the question we want to know now. What happened? Why weren't you on the overall podium, Esteban? What happened to the car? We'll let you know when we're back on air for the 5th and 6th races of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship tomorrow.
So the pose for the photographs done and dusted.
Quick breather, and then they'll be off qualifying again. And again, 2 more races to come. So that rounds out what's been, again, very entertaining fair from the championship, Dave.
Yes, and as you say, more to come. 3 races across the course of the weekend for the FIA F3 European Championship.